Hello, I'm Kim Lee Ko, in case any of you don't know me by sight, and I am the instructor for the Contemporary Mixed Media course you signed up for. Thank you very much for signing up, and I'm looking forward to our 4 weeks together. I wanted to supplement the materials list I'm sending to you with a little video because sometimes I find that the written words in a materials list don't feel adequate for those of you who are more visual, tactile, that kind of thing. And also because one of the great joys and features of mixed media, and contemporary mixed media in particular, is the range of possibilities open to you. I don't want you to drown in possibilities. If you're a person who needs things to be kept narrower, the materials list lists categories of things you need representation in, and just look after those in a more limited way. But for those of you who can joyfully embrace a wider range or want to expand a little bit from what you already own, potentially, some of you may own everything already, so I'm not going to assume anything, but anyway, I just wanted you to be able to see some options. So one category is drawing. I think it's important to have some ways of making marks, of drawing line, of developing drawing in whatever way. It can be doodly, it can be detailed, it can be very big and bold and rough. That depends on what you need, artistically speaking, and who you are artistically as well. But I mentioned pigment pens. So these are Staedtler fine liners. Some people maybe, these are like technical pens, so they produce an even line, black line. Some people may be more familiar with the microns. Okay. But you can also get things that are a little less restricted than a technical pen, which is something like this Faber-Castell Pitt pen, Pitt artist pen. You see that? It comes in different colors and different nibs, and this one is a brush pen. Let me put it somewhere there. You see that? And so it's flexible. If I get a piece of paper, I can maybe show you that. Sorry, the camera goes backwards compared to what I'm... So it's flexible, right? And so it can produce a variegated line. I love these. I only own one, which I got through a friend. I'm grateful to her, but I want to get a whole set of these because these are awesome. So that's pigment pens or something mentioned in the materials list. So I wanted you to see what that was. Now, gel pens are a whole category, and they resemble more like a ballpoint pen, but with a slightly thicker ball. And these are, the inventor of gel ink is Sakura, and they came out with a jelly roll line of pens. Now, that's probably the most expensive option. They are awesome, so don't feel like you're just getting ripped off if you buy them, but there are less expensive options than Sakura Jelly Roll, but they have wonderful lines. I have a metallic set, different colors of metallic, but they have, opaques and oh, I don't know, they just have so many different kinds of lines of color. So that's some pens. Obviously, you may have other really interesting pens. Another thing I love working with, I find them really versatile because you can do a fine line, you can do fat lines, and they are water soluble, are these Lyra water soluble graphite. So you see that metallic sheen to it, because graphite is, of course, a metal. And you have to see how it says Wasser. Whoops, Wasser. That means it's water soluble. I think it also says it in English. Yes, there it says it in English. Okay. They look alarmingly like the non-water soluble ones. The color of the label's different, but these are also a few years old, so I don't know if they've changed the labeling. Lyra may not be carried by all the art supply stores, so see what you can get if you have any interest in graphite, water soluble graphite sticks. Okay. Another water soluble medium is watercolor crayons or water soluble crayons. So this is a set by Staedtler. You can see it belongs to Cal, my husband, not to me. He's loaning me these to show you. I couldn't lay my hands on my crayons. The ones I use most, I have Caran d'Ache, which are the Primo line. They're the first ones I ever saw, so they may have invented it. Anyway, Mungyo Gallery, they make watercolor crayons, and I'm not sure what the pricing is on the Staedtler, but the Mungyo ones are very affordable. They're a Korean brand, and I've been very happy with them. So this is a box of 36. I think you can get a 12-pack, and my package that I can't find right now is 24-pack, and I'll just show you what you get in there. So this is 36. Isn't that nice? And so they are get one with a, here's a crayon. Okay, and what's nice is you can dip it in water and then draw with it. You can wet the paper first and then draw with it. You can also lay some down and then with a wet brush. It's usually a good idea though to dip the crayon at least a little bit first. So you can work it, you can blend them, and they have a lovely consistency. I find them very versatile. I've used them to work into photographs and prints. I use them in drawings, in sketchbook, in really any on various kinds of paper, from Chinese paper, Japanese paper, to watercolor paper, and anything in between. Yeah, it's an incredibly versatile set of colors to have. You can probably get away with owning less paint if you have some of these, if you're a person who needs to keep things contained. Speaking of paint, another thing that I mentioned there are paint pens, and I want to emphasize that in the materials list I list categories, and then I mention some possibilities within those categories. Okay, I am of course going to show you some specific combinations or whatever, but you don't have to feel limited to that. That's important. So paint pens always have a ball inside so that you can shake them to mix them. All of the pens I use are acrylic or water-based paint. They're not watercolor pens. You can buy watercolor pens, which would be transparent, but these are opaque or reasonably opaque, and they're acrylic. So different brands make them. So Liquitex has a line that coordinates with all their paint colors. Sharpie makes an oil-based as well, but this is their water-based. Okay, and I've used these for years. They're not my favorite anymore now that so many more companies produce paint pens. Probably the very top of the line in paint pens is Molotov, Molotov. They're more expensive, but they're extremely good. They probably have the most opaque color. Ones I've been very happy with are made by Uni, and they're called Posca pens. and they're very versatile. You can use these to draw on non-absorbent materials as well as absorbent. So you could draw on glass, on plastic, on ceramic, or certainly clay, terracotta, you know, that kind of thing, leather, fabric, so many things. So it's very, very versatile. Comes in different nibs. What have I got here? There's that nib. Do I have a fatter one? No, I don't have a fatter one. But anyway, they do come in a variety of nibs, as do the Sharpies come in different sizes. I've got some jumbo ones and I've got really fine. And then there's Pebeo, makes this deco marker, and I think it also comes in a variety of nibs. One neat thing that they do is they always include an extra nib on the outside, so when and if this nib gets damaged, you can replace it with a new nib. So that's sort of the story of paint pens. I can show you, if you're a beginner with paint pens, you just let me know in the class and I'll show you how to use them. Okay? And okay, so that covers some drawing tools. There are other possibilities, but I just wanted to make sure I covered those particular ones. Now, moving on to papers and so on. So I mentioned one really great way to work is to do layered up work on paper with a sturdy base paper. But it could also be something not paper as a base, and then layer up papers. The reason I suggest layering it up with even a paper base is that it's just the most flexible in terms of ease of options, layering, fastening, hanging, all of that. But you may be a person who loves wood panels and the ease for hanging a wood panel, or maybe canvases or something. So so you can use that as a base for sure. You'll just have to use slightly different options and processes to fasten and so on. You'll still want to be able to layer up with other kinds of paper and fabric maybe, and plastic maybe. So so one of the interesting things is if you can obviously have paper that's different texture, different colors, maybe some have pattern, but you know, wouldn't it be neat if you made your own pattern, all of that. But I'm going to talk to you today about papers that have transparency or translucency more properly in most cases, which is you can see through, light passes through them is what translucency means. They have different degrees of transparency in the sense of what you can actually see underneath them. So this, let me get something underneath it that you can see. Okay, so there's that has pretty good transparency, and so it should, because that is tracing paper. Okay, now tracing paper is lovely to look at, and as long as you keep the processes dry, it's quite good to work with. As soon as you start to bring some water into the situation, it ripples. So you should know that. But it's cheap and cheerful. You can get it in a lot of office supply sections. So, you know, yeah, like Staples, I'm sure has some. Now, definitely a step up from tracing paper is vellum paper. Now, sometimes you see sketch pads or something that say vellum finish on the paper. That's not vellum paper. And, you know, I'm sorry, the paper industry, the history of paper development means that we've ended up with two words used differently. It's confusing. But here's the difference. Vellum paper is actually, its origins are as a drafting vellum. So architects would use it, um, builders would use it, engineers would use it. It is very like tracing paper in that it has that transparency, because of course they needed to redraw drawings, and they would trace over old drawings to make their modifications. But the feel is different. It's sturdier. It will stand up to a ton of erasing, because that came up a lot. And people drew on it in pencil and also in ink. So I'm not sure that it's up to washes exactly, but it is up to drawn pen lines with ink. So it's actually really nice stuff. Now, related to that, so, this is the normal vellum. You can get this in big rolls as well. I'm just showing you convenient 9 by 12 sizes. There is also this clear print heavy vellum. Okay, it says great for markers, alcohol, water, and solvents. So this is awesome vellum paper, okay, because it will stand up to more different media. And it's acid free, 48 pound. What's the other stuff? Well, the other stuff says 55 pound, but it's on a different basis. So again, confusing paper terminology, so just ignore that, okay? Let me show you. Okay, in the metric measurements, it's better. It's 180 grams, 180 GSM. This is 90 gram. So it's twice as thick as the other vellum. And I hope I can convey that here. It is so much stiffer. It's definitely flexible, but you could actually use this to make things that are dimensional with it. It's heavy enough that it you could form that, and you see how it holds that shape. It's not super vulnerable. So I haven't shown off its translucency. Still really good. So it has that frosted, veiled look, but really good transparency also. Okay. Well, that's that. Oh, I see I've forgotten something. So there are 9 by 12 pads of something called Duralar, which is the same, just a different brand name for Mylar, which is a plastic frosted plastic. You can also get absolutely transparent plastic like acetate, but it's actually, I think, made of polyester. And whether it's Mylar or Duralar, they were both also used for architectural drafting purposes. And they are fantastic to draw on. Yeah, they're just amazing. And they have a frosted look, and they're plastic, so of course they don't absorb water and ripple up. But you can paint and draw on them. You can draw in Conte on them. You can draw with paint pen on them. It's now something that looks similar is Yupo translucent. Watercolorists, some watercolorists are very keen on. There's a whole, Yupo stream in contemporary watercolor practice, and you can get this handy dandy pad. Yupo is quite expensive. Duralar is not cheap either, but I'm sorry I don't have the prices off the top of my head. But please go visit your favorite art supplier and look. I seem to recall that Duralar pads are available at Above Ground and at Curry's. I'm not sure about Dessert. You can check there. Yupo is available at both those places I mentioned. I would imagine Dessert would have it too. But Yupo is normally a white, opaque white. It's a plastic sheet again, but this is the translucent. Now let me show you how transparent it is. Okay, there, you can see that. And that's pretty similar to how Mylar or Duralar would be. I'll mention that, like the vellum, Mylar and Duralar is available on rolls or in big sheets, depending on the art supplier. So you can actually get really big, go really big with those. Okay, a couple more options. No, probably more than a couple. For translucent kind of stuff. One is fabric. Now, you might have an organza or something. You might have scraps of something. You might have an old garment that you were going to get rid of anyway, or old sheer curtains. If you inherited some old living room shears, this is fabric. This isn't from curtains, but it's the same fabric they used. And isn't that lovely? And it's it needs a little ironing, but it flows nicely. See how the layers look nice together. I with the help of a team of generous volunteers, I've done a number of pieces using meters and meters and meters, many panels of 14-foot high drawings on this this fabric, and it's called a polyester voile or voile. I think in the fabric store, more people will understand you if you say voile, but it's from the French word voile, so voile, and it's made of pure polyester, and it's washable, and you can see it frays, but it is, and it's a little slippery, so drawing on it wasn't easy, but well worth it, and yeah, there's so much you can do with it, and once you're into fabric, there are, new possibilities open up. So that's a possibility. Now I want to be sure, one of the reasons I'm making different options available is it depends on your circumstances. First of all, art supplies can cost a lot of money. That's fine. That's a question of what you feel able to spend. But also, I know things are opening up more and so on, but you might, I don't know what your situation is, but if you're at all immune compromised or whatever, you may not feel comfortable going out into the shop to buy things. So you can place things on order. I believe the lead times are much better now than they were 2 months ago, when the art supply stores just couldn't keep up. But here is a translucent material. It's a Dollarama shopping bag. Hear that crinkle? That kind of crinkle plastic, I think it makes for a very nice material. You see it has that translucency. And, you can just cut away the logos and make yourself a nice sheet. I haven't been out to the shops at all for months now, so we have very little in the way of plastic bags, but we do have a Dollarama down the street, so I might brave a trip there. So there, that could be interesting. We'd have to test stuff on it to see what would work. But you can also use it in ways that don't involve a lot of interfering with the surface. Now this Posca pen should work just fine on it because it's good for non-absorbent materials. And I think finally, you can look at Japanese or Chinese papers. The Japanese paper place is open for business again. You can also order from some art supply stores have Japanese papers. I know Above Ground, for example, has some really lovely papers, but I just thought I'd show you some that I have in my book here. Let's see what we've got. So this is a kind of tissue. You can ask to see tissues. See that? That's looking through their paper. There are different patterns of these perforated papers. They're not perforated after the fact. They're made with these beautiful perforated designs. This one has a water pattern. Oh, this is one of my favorites, Unryu tissue. Look at those gorgeous fibers, and it's translucent, right? So, I mean, it just goes on and on. So, you can think about that. Think about what deli paper also. I know some people have deli paper. I can't speak to its acid-free qualities, but it is translucent, and you can use it for collaging. And yeah, so I hope that helps. Please let me know if you've in the comments if you feel like that helped, just to see some things rather than only reading a list. Hopefully it's a little more stimulating too, gets you psyched up. And in the email with the PDF of the materials list and the link that I've included for this video, I should also have included a link for the Facebook group for you to join if you're on Facebook. It's very handy to have the Facebook group, which is a safe space for us to share things in progress, finish things, experiments, share resources, whatever. Okay, and I think that's it. So I'm looking forward to getting started with you on Friday, and I've got lots of stuff to test and prep. And oh, I should just mention one other thing, which is acrylic polymer medium. This is just one brand. It's a Canadian brand, TriArt. You know, it's a small bottle, 500 milliliters, and this is the semi-gloss. Gloss or semi-gloss is what I typically recommend because matte looks very frosted. If you want it to look very frosted, then feel free to go use matte. If you really need matte but you don't want it to look frosted, then you buy the Liquitex matte medium. Anyway, so that's what I recommend, because we are going to either make a skin and work with it in a way that I haven't discussed with any classes prior to this, and there's also the possibility of doing image transfer using the polymer medium. Okay, so okay, that really does wrap it up. So I'll see you on Friday, and maybe before that even in the Facebook group. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.